So standing here in the Sipsey Fork of the Black Warrior River, right in the confluence with Borden Creek, it's a good place to talk about what makes a wild and scenic river wild and scenic. And according to the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act of 1968, a river qualifies as a wild and scenic river when it has certain outstandingly remarkable characteristics, such as scenery, geology, wildlife, a sense of wildness, and characteristics that are vestiges of primitive America. And Sipsey Wilderness certainly provides that for this wild and scenic river. There are 34.6 miles of this river are designated as wild, and the remaining 25 miles are designated as scenic. And here in the Sipsey Wilderness is the wild portion of the Wild and Scenic River, because the access to the river in the wilderness is by trails, by foot. There is no road access. For a scenic designation, there can be some road access, even though it still carries the primitive qualities of the river.
I'm from Decatur area, and I work in Haleyville, so I pass through here every day. And this is actually my first time actually getting a chance to come back out here and stop and not being on a time schedule trying to make it to work. And I went down here on the river, and man, it's quiet for one. Besides the cars, but you get on down in there, it's just very quiet. It's peaceful. I brought my son with me and my nephew, and I mean, they love it here, and we're already making plans to come back and actually go hiking down the river.
This is the only wild and scenic river in the state of Alabama. Sipsey Fork is just a real gem. It's an example of what our river systems were like back before all of the development and destruction that occurred. The other two forks, the Black Warrior, the Mulberry Fork, and the Locust Fork, are also amazing, but they just can't compare to the Sipsey Fork because it is buffered by a massive forest system that really treats and cleans the water before it comes down into the river system and creates a true buffer. We don't have this much protected forest throughout much of Alabama anymore. We can't have a healthy river ecosystem without healthy tributaries and watersheds feeding into it.
The 7 principles of Leave No Trace provide an easily understood framework of minimum impact practices for anyone visiting the outdoors. Although Leave No Trace has its roots in backcountry settings, the principles have been adapted so that they can be applied anywhere, from remote wilderness areas to local parks and even in your own backyard. They also apply to almost every recreational activity. Each principle covers a specific topic and provides detailed information for minimizing impacts. The 7 principles are well established and widely known, but they are not static. The Leave No Trace Center for Outdoor Ethics continually examines, evaluates, and reshapes the principles. The center's education department conducts research, including publishing scholarly articles in independent journals, to ensure that the principles are up to date with the latest insights from biologists, land managers, and other leaders in outdoor education. Camp 200 feet away from water. Dispose of waste, including human waste, 200 feet away from water. Don't wash your dishes in the riparian areas. Bring water away from your water source to your campsite to wash dishes, and then broadcast your dirty water away from running water. When gaining access to water, make sure you use a durable surface like boulders or a low-grade slope. Do not scramble down tree roots or steep embankments, kicking off sedimentation into the water, which would adversely affect water quality. Riparian areas are lands that occur along watercourses and water bodies. Typical examples include floodplains and stream banks. They are distinctly different from surrounding lands because of unique soil and vegetation characteristics that are strongly influenced by the presence of water. General indicators of riparian areas include vegetation, soil, and water. Let's talk about those individually. Vegetation is the kinds and amounts of vegetation differ from adjacent upland vegetation because more water is supplied to plants from the associated watercourse or water body. Soil. Soil in natural riparian areas consists of stratified sediments of varying textures that are subject to intermittent flooding or fluctuating water tables that may reach the surface. The duration of soil wetness depends on the water levels of the adjacent water body. Water. Riparian areas are directly influenced by water from a watercourse or water body. They occur along natural watercourses or next to natural lakes in constructed water bodies such as ditches, canals, ponds, and reservoirs. Because of their variation across the country, riparian areas function in different ways. In spite of their differences, all riparian areas possess some similar ecological characteristics such as energy flow, nutrient cycling, water cycling, hydrologic function, and plant and animal population. These functions give riparian areas unique values relative to the surrounding landscape.
As human bodies of water, we are as much a part of the global water cycle as the Sipsey Fork. We are the water that we depend on for life. When water is abused, we are abused. It is the responsibility of each of us to protect water. Wild South is a forest protection organization. When we protect forests, we protect water. We invite you to join us as a volunteer or as a donor. Come work with us on projects in our Alabama National Forests and the Sipsey Fork Wild and Scenic River. Go to wildsouth.org or email me at janice@wildsouth.org so we can talk about how you can get involved.